Trust me when I tell you, you don't understand the story that's being written here. My name is Ella Ann Kasiba, and I'm gonna tell my story today. I'm gonna tell the truth, and it's extremely painful for me. And although it's been a journey to get where I am today, and I want to go back and explain as to why this video is being created. And originally I was like, oh, I'll do this nice little big, with a nice camera, but why? I need to get this off my chest. For 4 years now, I've dealt with a lot of anxiety, pain, insecurity, and disappointment. And I would like to make this statement now, and I'll probably make this statement a couple times. The purpose behind me doing this video is I want to show people that despite everything I've gone through, I still love myself, and I still work on loving myself, and I'm progressive. And the world has really tried to smash me, even my own world, even my own self. And so hopefully this is, I know this is going to upset a lot of people, but here we go. I'm just gonna start from the beginning. Okay. I'm Ella. Alright, so I grew up, I'm gonna make my life story a little short. I don't want to go too long on this. I grew up in a very beautiful family. My mother and father, my dad's a custom home builder, my mom is a middle school teacher, coach, and they really raised us to be beautiful individuals, hardworking, progressive. I really looked up to my brothers. We were very, gifted genetically with to be athletes and stuff of that sort. I will never deny that. My family is just, man, they're cool. So, unfortunately, I had an accident when I was 12, but even before that, I grew up racing horses. I raced them in 25, 50-mile races in the sport called endurance. And it's a little bit of a smaller equestrian sport. Basically, you run through these courses, and they kind of vet check you the whole time, judge your horse, judge you. So I grew up doing these races. I loved them. I thought I was going to be a professional equestrian, and horses, I would go, get concussions left and right, and 5 days later after I'm recovered, I'd be like, I want to go back and ride Chuffy, which was a name of a horse we had because he was chunky and fluffy. But anyways, I had a lot of life growing up. I loved to live, and I loved to explore and use my body. But unfortunately, when I was 12, where we grew up was real country, so I was riding my horse out back, and a deer jumped out in front of us one night, and the initial fall broke the L4 and L5 in the back. Crazy enough, I went an entire year of 5 different doctors. My life pretty much immediately changed. Now, it's been some time. I'm 24 years old now, but as far as my memory, I was so static. The pain eventually consumed every literal aspect of me. I had doctors give me Oxycontin and heavy pills and narcotics. I had a doctor who put me in a metal back brace that went from the collarbone to the pubic bone. It caused me numerous amount of neck issues. Most of my days, I just try to get from point A to point B. I also sometimes would vomit, pass out. I was in so much pain and sad. I was very sad. Also, back then, I didn't understand the damage, but I was bullied. A lot of kids, I was the girl with the pillow, okay? So for the most part, I kind of really progressed out of the wheelchair, but I would have a pillow because I couldn't sit in anything without dying. And I actually couldn't even sit without 30 minutes without my back being in pain. And then it was okay, I'll stand for a few minutes. Oh, that hurts. Oh, I'll lay down for 5 minutes. Oh, I'm still dying. I was always in pain. And I still live in that pain now as I've progressed as an adult. I've kind of worked with it and worked around it and built a stronger body so that way my pain has decreased. But I literally, every day, it's a gnat. It's a very annoying gnat in my back. So I grew up pretty sad. The chronic pain, it does something to your mind. It it shaped me in ways nothing could ever shape me, okay? But it also gave me a gift because, and also I was so young when this happened to me. I was 12 years old. I didn't comprehend how shitty the stick I was getting. Like, it was, if I still have those diaries, and literally all my writing is, I'm sad today, but I gotta go pet the pony, so I'm happy. I'm in just so much pain, blah, blah, blah. I don't want pain, this hurts. Like, I didn't understand how much I was fighting. And, so, unfortunately, when I finally recovered from my surgery, which ended up, I ended up actually having surgery, okay? So about a year later, after all these doctors, and I had one, quote unquote, doctor who, actually, she's a chiropractor, she was doing this treatment called decompression on me, which is where they put a strap around your ribs and around your hips, and they pull you apart, which is like actually great for people who do have like bulging discs and stuff like that. It can bring that traction and allow the space for the vertebrae to kind of fall back in. Unfortunately, this woman did not have a license. She did not see my MRI. And she upped my weight one day by 50 pounds. So 25 pounds extra on each side, pulling me apart. That day, she left to go Christmas shopping. My mom was in there. It was just like a typical therapy day for me. I was in there on this like medieval torture chamber being stretched apart. They'd always put Everybody Loves Raymond on, which is a great show, but it brings me memories. I would watch Everybody Loves Raymond every day, and I just remember the pain I felt. The best way I can describe it, and I've maintained describing it for years like this because I don't think there's any other way I could describe it. Imagine a guitar string, when it is pulled so tightly that it like splinters and it spirals out. That is what my back felt like. The muscles in my back were being ripped, and this woman was ripping me. Literally, I started screaming, crying. The pain was excruciating. My mom was freaking out. There was this little aide there that somehow was able to get me off the machine. I had passed out before. They got me off. I was milliseconds from being paralyzed. My parents were in the position to sue, but they didn't. We got my money back. About 2 weeks later, I went in and was blessed. This orthopedic, pediatric spine specialist was actually free. Like, he had an opening, and we had been trying to get in with this individual for months, you know, and just suddenly they're like, yeah, he can see you. That day, you know, 2 weeks after this incident, I'm literally not walking. I was in so much excruciating pain. I was very, very dark. I actually like barely remember those days because I think I just laid in bed and tried to walk, and I was so sad. And that day when I went to go to the specialist, he spent 5 hours with me, and he was like, we know something's going on, so we're gonna do exploratory surgery. And I went in for exploratory surgery 2 weeks later. 2 weeks later, a 9.5 surgery, I was born again. I'm only connected from the upper half to the lower half by 4 metal rods and 6 screws. So what happened was the horse accident was a huge blessing in disguise. Thank you, Socks. That's the horse's name. It was a huge blessing in disguise for sure, because it crippled me sooner than I was going to become crippled. I was born with a birth defect where my spine was not connected to the sacrum. So in simple terms, here's your spine, here's your sacrum, you know, your butt, your body, not connected. So upper half, lower half, not connected. There was just like this space here. Sure enough, our bodies are amazing. So my body tried to heal itself. So what it had done was I had built like this random just like cube of bone that was floating in there. And I also had a condition called spondylolisthesis, which is where the vertebrae slip out of the spinal column and kind of slip towards the abdomen wall. It causes numerous amount of nerve damage, yada, yada, yada. But then the other fault was the horse accident, was the L4 and L5. So what they did in the surgery was, you know, they put I'll show you my x-rays, and I know they're out there. But basically, my back looks like I have these little hinges. And so whenever I bend over, it's like a hinge, because they're the 4 metal rods and 6 screws that kind of like keep me together. So when I bend over and just walk around, like I'm just like, imagine these like little, these things holding me together. Like, So I started over. And my journey was hard. I was 13 at the surgery. I mean, I remember the first day they made me sit up. It felt like I had 10,000 pounds in my back. I remember a grandma passed me in her walker when I was trying to walk, days later. And I remember it like crushed my ego. I was like, this grandma with her tennis balls passed me. And I think I'm getting a little too detailed into kind of that, but I don't want this to be a crazy long video, but I really struggled. It was hard. For the next 2 years after my surgery, I went to PT. Probably for a year, I went to PT about 2 weeks, every 2 days, twice a week. And, we did various things. I was always getting massage, learning to walk. And what I would do on my own was I journaled a lot. And, I took my doctor's advice seriously. He told me, take care of yourself. Make sure you work on the muscles around your back. Study the body. Understand your body. And sure enough, the muscles that support your back are your hamstrings and your abs and your core. So I remember, all right, well, I'll start working on my legs. Clydesdale life, here we go. Back then, I wasn't I was a 13-year-old girl. It's not like I had this body or anything really. And my body was already failing me for years now. So I started to walk. And some days I could only walk, a few meters. And then I usually would gauge it on the pain. So if my pain would hit about a 4 or 5, I would have to go back because it would be about 10 when I get back. And I would be down for the rest of the day. But it took me a long time. Steadily, I would just walk. And one day, I finally was able to walk a mile by myself. And I remember that moment. It was wild. I would just go walk the trails that I had broken my back on the horse. So it was all, kind of by my house. And I think that's kind of the root of how I've always maintained, walking outside. Going outside, it's peaceful for me. So, finally I recovered, all right? I finally had a body that worked. Then my brain woke up. I wasn't static anymore, and I said, okay, let's go be great. But I wasn't ready yet. I was very sad still. Unfortunately, I think the end of my freshman year in high school, I started experimenting with lots of underage drinking. Lots. And I abused pain pills. Benadryl was actually one of my favorites, which isn't a pain pill, but if you took 6 or 7 and you fought it off, you'd get high. And I started smoking. I did this all behind my parents' back. I did this, actually, for the most part, a lot of times just with a few people, and I was mostly by myself. I wanted to drown myself a lot. And I was kind of always different. But I was really always friends with a lot of people in my school. I actually loved where I grew up. I was friends with the pretty girls, the band guys. But I was always kind of different, so I could kind of fit in with everyone. I wanted to work out. I wanted to be hippie. I wanted to listen to metal. I wanted to listen to rap. I did all those. And so, but I was so lost. And I was so sad. And I was doing lots and lots of drinking and pills. And I started to see what it was doing to my friends. And so I think into my junior year, middle junior year, I quit. I quit playing around with pills. I really didn't drink anymore. Senior year, I was pretty much a good girl. I didn't really do too much. I think I did still experiment. I was still very sad. And that sadness carried. And unfortunately, it carried into an eating disorder. And I think the reason why I got to the eating disorder was because I grew up with a body that failed me, and now I had a body that worked, and so I was so happy with the control that I over-controlled it and obsessed with it. And I was so tired of being weak. I was so tired of struggling, so I just started to over-control, and sure enough, I didn't know what this meant at the time, but I always told myself, "Ella, you're gonna be great. You're gonna be great." And I wanted to be great. So I started training like a mad woman. I started doing my own research. I started unfortunately, and I don't want to blame this, but I did see this article online that was a woman ate 800 calories and she looked great. So I said, cool, I'm gonna do 600. I can do better than that. Please, you and your 800. Sure enough, that 600 turned into 500. Then the 500 was 250. And then pretty much most of the time, I would run 35 miles a week while trying to only barely eat 500, 250 calories a day. Every workout I did, I would make sure that on the cardio machine, which I know is BS, but the cardio machine would be the calories I know I'd eaten already. I worked around the clock. I starved and I starved. And I developed anorexia. And this is the beginning of my career. I was doing 5Ks at the time. I was running really well. My hopes were, because when I graduated high school, I had no idea where to go. I wasn't going to college. I was going to go to community college. And going to community college isn't that cool. But I was planning to perfect some running and get a scholarship to go run at Texas State, actually. I was running really good times. I was running like 18:35 Ks. But I was diminishing. I was 120, 115. Today I'm like my shoulder pops. I'm like 145, maybe even less. I'm actually kind of tiny these days. I mean, I say tiny, but yes, so it's getting long. It's 16 minutes now, but this is my life, okay? I'm making it very short, but all right, done. So I was trying to run. I was diminishing. I was falling asleep a lot at class, passing out. I was so weak. I would barely eat. Starving made me feel proud. It made me feel progressive. I would wake up every day and I would check my belly out and I would stare at it. And I would say, was that extra little piece of chicken good? I would judge so hard. Around this time, I started entering into obstacle races. I saw my first Tough Mudder or whatever it was, entered into it, did really well. I think I won for women time-wise back then. 2 weeks later, I walked to the Spartan race in Glen Rose, 2011. I won it by 20 minutes. I outperformed some ex-Terra Pro athletes, which at the time I guess is a huge big deal. I was only 18 years old. I didn't think much of it. And actually, for the most part, I was so sloppy on a lot of obstacles. I don't know how I was really that good. I was just very determined. I was going to fall. I was going to twist my ankles and get lost, but I was going to kill it for myself. And that's what I did every single time. And I literally was killing my own self, unfortunately. So I showed up. I won this race. And a few weeks later, it's like a movie moment. I was getting calls. I got a call from the founder of Spartan Race and a call from a company called Flag Nor Fail. They signed me. A few months later, I'm signed. Basically, to kind of make the rest of my life a little bit shorter in the story, I started competing, but my anorexia turned into bulimia. I could no longer starve. These races were getting so demanding that I was just so weak. So one day I cracked and ate 6 burgers, and I remember the first time I purged, I just remember I had to get rid of it, and the shame I felt was so powerful. And the scariest part about it is I knew to write in my journal, and I can tell you exactly what I said without looking at it. The gist of it, I remember writing, I hope I didn't start a problem for myself. But I knew I did. I knew I was never going to be the same. And I wasn't. For the next, 3 years, I competed very intensively with bulimia. Every race I did, I was sick. I would spend nights before races purging, binging, weeks, and that would go maybe a day where I'd say, oh my God, I'm free. And then I want to be free. I was never free. So I lived this way. But I was so successful. At the time, I'm 18, 19 years old, 19 maybe. And I was doing well, but there were so many signs that I was sick. Sometimes my body I always kind of had a bloated belly. And if you actually were to be a long-time follower, actually were oh, I'm going to creep on her now. I didn't post too many photos of my stomach, in the beginning. I never was scared, even when I was very lean. I just never thought I was good enough. I truly had it drilled in me that you're not good enough, Ella. You're not good enough. And I had so much pressure. I had all these contracts, and I was running well and doing all these events, and unfortunately, come 2013, I started my season off really well. I had just gotten over a tibia, like, I damaged my tibia real bad, bumped the bone twice, and, I had, like, an insane amount of bone bruising and stuff like that, like, internally, and I come back from this injury. I go to this race, Spartan race, it was Arizona 2013. There was a woman named April Liu. She had been kind of like taking my place at the time. She was a big deal. I showed up and I beat her. I beat her by 5 seconds. It was probably the most intense race I've ever had. This woman was grunting and we were really running side by side the whole race. I had so much anxiety, but it was beautiful. I mean, I pushed so hard and I believed in myself every second, even though I was hurting. We were running, so fast. I think they split us at like 6-minute miles for 5 miles over, 40, 30 obstacles. It was ridiculous. But I wanted to come back. I wanted to win. I wanted to be great. 2 weeks later, I showed up, went to North Carolina, and I won again. But 2 days after North Carolina, I shattered my foot. The initial injury actually didn't impact me very much mentally. It sucked, of course. This was another huge sign of my bulimia and eating disorders. I was just cracking. My bones were so brittle. So what I had done was I ruptured the brevis and longus tendon, they kind of run on the outside of the ankle. They're very much supported, are stabilization muscles. So they could be, a quote unquote like career ender, but they are hard to recover because they are tendons and you tear them. They just take their sweet time. Everyone who is an athlete should know that for sure. And I also fractured the 4th and 5th metatarsal in that foot. I limped back, and I was remembering I was pretty positive. I thought, all right, I've dealt with worse. This is fine. A few months go by, and I fell deep. I fell very deep into bulimia again. And I was still very bulimic then, but I was trying hard not to purge as much. But the binging and purging got to, in a very uncomfortable level. It was guaranteed at least 6 times a day. There really wasn't a day I didn't do it. By this point, also, I'd like to make note, I didn't have any friends really. Like, I traveled, knew a lot of people, but in my personal life, most of my friends left me, and I did the duty of wiggling away from them, and it was easier to be alone, unfortunately, and Ed wanted me to be alone. Ed is what I call eating disorder. It's better to give it a face and a name, and I was very alone. Very alone. Been alone for years. So, one day, it's the summer of 2013, and I'm going to get very emotional saying this because it's hard. And I'm someone who feels things very deeply. A wound could be years old, but it'll always bleed when I speak of it. I was having difficulty purging that morning. My parents were gone, they were always gone in the mornings and stuff, and I had just finished a binge and I was getting ready to get rid of it. And I usually always had kind of my own little rituals, but I was always quiet and not thinking during them. I just had the actions of them. I just knew I needed to do these little things. I couldn't get much of the vomit to come up, the food, and so I was getting kind of sloppy. And I had a lot of leftover stomach acid on my fingers. And by the way, at this point of my life, fingers didn't do it anymore. I had to use long forks. To this day, I can't eat with long forks. I always choose the little ones because I would take these long forks and I would take these long forks and I would put them down my throat to empty myself. Most of the time, I would cut up my throat and, the smell of vomit just stays on you forever. But that day, I lost grip of the fork. It was maybe in there for like a few seconds. But I was able to envision my mom seeing me, like, she calls my name for days, and she's like, "Oh, her truck's here, I'll go upstairs," and she finds me dead. And I was able to see it all. And I realized I didn't want it, but I had been dreaming of death. I literally would always, envision, if I just drifted my truck off this bridge, no one will know it was on purpose. I was so miserable. And I kept this, harsh double life. And hiding the pain I lived in was one of the most brutal things. And then on top of it, my dog dies a few days later. She died in my arms at the trails. I carried her. She had a heart attack. I was in such a low place. But I hid it. I hid it, and I was alone. I hid it so well. Then came the Flagnerfeld tour. I am on a cast, or I wasn't in a cast, I was in this weird boot thing. Or maybe I'd just gotten out of it from the foot injury. I went on the tour. I was not the Ella a lot of people saw. I wasn't ripped. I was soft. I was very sad. The whole experience then, I remember I was very sad. I might as well have been a chair at a party during that time. I mean, I was just there. Truly, I was there. A few months later, March of 2014, my second oldest brother graduates from Marine OCS class, and this brother of mine he was my best friend growing up. I don't have many idols, but I loved him. I mean, we played Halo. I always wanted to make a box of noodles for him and his friends. He was an amazing guy to me, and still is. He's all of my family. So he was graduating Marine OCS class. It was a big deal for the family. My oldest brother came in, and I wasn't present. Most people with eating disorders struggle with family gatherings and holidays. For kind of obvious reasons, most of the time people are very happy and celebrating around food. And that's not when I'm going to be happy. I'm not going to be happy then. I'm going to be so stressed. And in secret, I will be hurting myself the whole time. And so, of course, we went to a Brazilian steakhouse to celebrate. It's the best place for a bulimic. And no one noticed, but I was just eating and eating. And I would sneak away, throw up. The next day we flew back, and I think I ate 10 Girl Scout cookies, 10 boxes. I used to eat. And I was so sick of myself. I felt so mad I wasn't present for my brother and my family and for myself. And I was so tired of hiding and hurting and being alone. I was sitting on the plane, and there was this lady. She was 70, 80 years old. She was wearing this matching JCPenney outfit, she was old. She looked like someone's cute little sweet witchy little grandma. And in a non-creepy way, I started observing her, and I realized, wow, I will never be like this if I continue. So I got my phone, and I want to tell you, that phone was on 10%, and I wrote that entire blog. I wrote a blog announcing that I was bulimic and what I'd been going through. I wrote it on that plane. When I got home that night, I rewrote it on my laptop, and I sat there, read it 20 times, and bawled, and finally, I hit submit. And it was like this. It was like this weight, and this ghost came out of me. And I think for 2 weeks I cried on and off. I couldn't control it. I mean, I'd been hiding that for 5 years. But it was weird. When I went public, it felt like everyone knew, and I felt naked. I remember driving to massage school at the time, and I saw the homeless man on the road, and I remember thinking, oh, he's probably oh, there's a girl with the eating disorder. Look at her go. I just felt naked and so ashamed and scared and vulnerable and sad, but it felt good. I wasn't having to hold that emotional pain of hiding something that literally was going to kill me. I was going to kill myself. And because I'm a perfectionist, I will work until my body stops. And my body was going to stop. And I had sent this article, the blog that I'd written to my first sponsor, Flag Nor Fail. I said, look, this is what's been going on with me. I never got a response. A few weeks later, actually a few months later, I don't really know exact time frame, I just know it was literally within the same few months. Flag Nor Fail released this whole fuck balance motto, and somehow it felt extremely personal, and it felt very weird to see these messages when I had just openly stated, hello everyone, for the past 5 years or 4 years at that time or whatever it was, for the past X amount of years I've been sick with an eating disorder, I've really lost balance with my life, blah blah blah. And then there was that. I kind of just, let it happen. But then finally, I don't know what happened. I thought it was a bad message. Purely. And some fan tagged me on Instagram. All of us. And when I say all of us, it probably was me, Rob Bailey, Dana Lynn Bailey, maybe even Drew Bailey at the time. We were all tagged in this post, and it was just talking about how they love the no balance thing. And I don't know. I commented and said I believe in balance. At this point in time, I hadn't heard from Rob or Dana or Drew, anyone at Flag Nor Fail for at least, since the tour, really, I think. We hadn't spoken. It felt weird, but there was a huge power differential there. These people literally hung the moon for me. I loved them. Because literally he sought me out, he saw my story, and he gave me an opportunity. Wow, I loved Flag Nor Fail back then, so I wasn't gonna say anything. I was so vulnerable and weak. All I needed was help. I needed help so bad. So, I shit you not, this caused a ruckus, and Rob was very upset with me for the comment. And he called me, told me I was branding against him, and we needed to talk. And this is so hard for me to do. I must have been a smart cookie, but when he called me, after we got off that phone call, I went to my notebook and I wrote down some of the things he said to me. And before I tell you how the conversation went, I'm just gonna kind of say these quotes real quick. I was offended and insulted by the way you looked. You knew we were going on tour and you showed up looking the way you did. I thought maybe at first you didn't know, but that first day you wore those shorts, you didn't look like an athlete. It was just weird. I don't get it. I don't get the whole bulimia thing. If Dana ever slips up, I'll fucking tell her. That girl is perfect. Everyone around me disappoints me. Even my own brother is disappointing me right now. So, what happened was he immediately started telling me, who are you to brand against us? And I was like, whoa, please listen to me. Let me backtrack as to why I said I believed in balance and to what I'm going through. And immediately Rob Bailey says, oh, you want to backtrack? You want to backtrack, Ella? I want me to backtrack to the Flag Nor Fail East Coast tour when you look fat and unathletic. I was embarrassed and insulted by the way you looked. He compared me to Dana. He later accused me in the conversation of cheating, and it's actually like hilarious and ironic because it later was used more as like a blackmail in my adult professional opinion, the way he said it. He told me I was branding against Dana somehow, which is ridiculous. I know if anyone were to go back throughout my whole Instagram, Twitter, I was 100% about them. I fucking loved them. And all I needed was their help. I was right fucking there, you know? I was right there in their hands and they didn't want to help. And, yeah, he accused me of these things. And they were 100% inaccurate. And, it hurt. But I realized, wait a minute, I don't even want to be with this company. I don't, this is toxic. I'm never gonna win if you compare me to your wife. No one will win. No one will win, you know? Why would you say this to me? Like, I almost died. Like 8 months before this, I'm trying to tell you what's going on, and all you want to do is tell me I'm not perfect. So then we go our separate ways. At the time I was scheduled to compete in the death race, I was also about to go work for Lang Norton's VIP camp. I was a very hot mess. Some of those individuals that went to that camp knew about it because I was dying for closure. It was so painful. And for the next few years, I just grew in anxiety and insecurity, you know, like, what if I wasn't capable to handle what he said? Even if I was this bad affiliate that he claimed me to be, it is highly unprofessional to discriminate, to body shame, and then to later threaten a 19, 20-year-old who just opened up about an eating disorder. He later told me after he claimed me of these accusations of branding against and cheating, which I never cheated, I never branded, I loved them. He later told me that if he ever found me bashing against them, he would threaten me. Or that he would come after me. And so I was terrified. I literally was just so broken. And that was 4 years ago. March 2014 is when I opened up. And a few months later. And, you know, when they did the public announcement that we were going our separate ways, it was very blunt, short. For the next few years, people would ask me every now and then, oh my god, like, you work with them, so cool. For the most part, I really maintained being professional, and I would just say, yeah, we went our separate ways. And then behind the scenes, I'd be crying, you know, like, why am I protecting them? This is not right. This is bullying. I was so weak and so impressionable that, I mean, he knew it. He knew I loved them. Like, I was very blindsided. So, like I said in the beginning of this video, the reason I'm doing this, if I can go through this much pain from my own world, from my back, from my eating disorders, through the chronic sadness, the pain, companies hurting me, bashing me, I still love myself, and I will still rise. And in a way, as painful as that was, and it's caused me so much pain, and it is incredibly unfair I have to live with this pain and feel like I have to be quiet, because I don't want this to happen to anyone else, and I'm someone who has somewhat of a platform, so why should I be quiet? I should reach out and help. I should help people. And I hope this helps people. I hope people understand understand, you can't just believe everything you see online. There's a lot behind the scenes. We're real people. And I mean, I've like walked away from sponsorship since that because I was so terrified and so panic struck. Every time I went to the Arnold, which was not often after that, I was fucking so scared that he would find me, he would see me, or like every time I'd see something of theirs, my heart would stop. But my purpose is not to bash or discriminate this brand. As far as I know, they're doing great things for people, which is actually deepens my pain because I want to say, why not me? It was almost as if I was too real too soon. I feel like after I opened up, this whole radical self-love movement happened, and you saw it all over Fitspro, Instagram people, oh, I'm going through this, I'm going through that. Oh, it's cool to care. We're gonna care now. It was like I was too real before it was too cool. Like, it wasn't cool enough to give a shit when I was real. And, this is really weird for me to do at the end of this, but I almost want to, even though Rob Bailey really hurt me, I almost want to tell him, thank you. He hurt me so bad, but he taught me that no matter who tries to crush you, even if it's your own self, you can disagree, and you can fight, and you can find love for yourself, because every life loves again, and it's your attitude that's going to really make the difference. I never once resorted to being bitter or anger. I never stomped around and burned their clothes or said I hated them. I just was very sad. I really needed help, and I was literally in their hands and their arms, and I don't even know what to say. They didn't want to be there. I don't know. And it hurts because I just really why couldn't they help me? I thought for years, that I wasn't perfect. I really worked hard at trying to let go of the things they said and letting them control me. And actually last Sunday, so this is Monday, January 29th or something like that, and it was about a week ago. I was writing down some stuff over my bulimia and kind of what I learned from it, and somehow I just kept going back to Flagner failed, the whole situation. And for the past few years now, I've been more and more upset over it, and it's caused me a lot of pain. But just last week when I saw myself talking about this, I started trembling and shaking and bawling. It was as if my body was shedding pain. And I realized, Allah, you have to let this out. And it's consumed me for a week now, and I did a lot better than I thought I was. I thought I was gonna cry way more, but I'm glad I didn't. This is real. This is my story. This is the truth. And this type of stuff should not be stood for. My purpose again is I really want to help people, and honestly, I will always love myself. No one can take that away from me. It's been about 45 minutes, so if you watch this, fucking thank you. And by the way, when I first opened up about my bulimia, a lot of people had emailed me. I had a blog at the time. I have all of those emails printed off in a notebook that people wrote me. And another point I'd like to make out as to why it's important for me to speak and to be open is I learned a very valuable lesson in 2013 as well, I think it was, yeah. I went to the Dallas Europa. I was also still not in a good conditioning. I was fat, but I was really trying to ignore that and see what I saw in my head. And I always see myself as this beautiful, exotic girl. And so I showed up to the Dallas Expo, and I saw it in everyone's faces. People were calling me fat. People did not really want to come say hi to me. And I cried the whole way back. I was so ashamed of how I looked. So, when I finally opened up about my bulimia, and maybe this fan is watching the video, that'd be so cool, but this individual, I'm not going to tell the name, but this individual emailed me. I got many, many emails, but for some reason this email, has strengthened me as to why I speak up. He starts the email off, and it kind of started off mean. It was like, really, I hope this doesn't hurt your feelings, but when I first saw you at the Dallas Europa, I looked over at my buddy and go, wow, Alakasiba's gotten fat. Ew, dude. Don't want to talk to her. Yeah, she let herself go. So they didn't come say hi. They didn't come take a photo. So when I opened up, I got all these emails, and I got this, and then his email. It says, after that, he goes, but now, after your blog and finding out what you've been through, I realize I have to change the way I look and think of things. That some people might be going through things and I shouldn't just judge them. And I want to thank you for that. And I remember reading that, and I suddenly finally realized why people were calling me proud and they were saying they were proud of me. I felt proud that I could help his mind learn to not just see people, to actually understand these people have lives. These people might be going through something, and your harsh judgment could be the cause of numerous amount of anxiety. You really have no idea what people go through. And him telling me that, made me find the confidence in, staying transparent and the power behind why, even this video was made was because, look, if I can go through this stuff and still giggle and smile and get over my eating disorders and use love to get over it, then you're gonna be amazing, Well, that's all I have to say. I have no idea how this will go.